Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Welcome to Starbase, Texas. This is where SpaceX is building, testing, and even launching their Mars-bound rocket, Starship. Today I'm going to take you inside the gates and show you things that have never been shared outside of SpaceX. Best of all, we have the ultimate tour guide, Elon Musk, who answers all of my questions and gives us unbelievable insights to the rocket's development. We talked and walked around for over 2 hours, so I'll be cutting this up into 3 parts. The first 2 are at the Starbase factory, and the last one is at the launch pad. Each section has a gold mine of valuable information, so make sure you're subscribed, you've got your notifications on, and you've got your notepads ready to jot some notes. We also will occasionally be putting up a little map courtesy of Ring Watchers on Twitter that will help you keep your bearings as we're walking around. I think that'll help quite a bit. Okay, enough talking. Let's go hang out with Elon.
There's a camera, with a camera, and then somebody else with a camera.
It's just camera envy at this point. He's just trying to, he saw me with this and he's like, listen.
I'll get my camera out.
Yeah, you take a video of me.
I can take a video of this. Of you guys taking a video.
Then you get over, make sure this is going through there. Okay. Just shoot the screen the whole time. Okay. I don't want anything else.
All right, so this is okay. So I'm being videoed here, and then the video of the video, and this is the video of the video of the video.
Go back there.
Mostly he was, he's in the high band at bay right now.
Okay.
So I feel like I got here maybe at about the most exciting peak of insanity.
It's definitely a very exciting time because we are in a kind of a final push to complete the launch system, stage 0 essentially, and it's worth saying that the launch system, the tower, and the chopstick arms to catch the rocket are as complex as either of the stages.
Really?
So, yeah, absolutely. If not more. Like we could produce boosters and ships way easier than we could make the launch site. So therefore, I'd say it is harder certainly than any single booster or ship. Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of those things people don't even realize is the manufacturing out here. That's kind of one of those things that you harp on so much is how that's so important, and that's in the long scheme the hardest part of all this is just the manufacturing.
Generally, manufacturing is underrated and design is overrated. So people generally think that this eureka moment of you come up with this idea and that's it. Now it's good, but the design, there's literally 1,000%. Maybe 10,000% more work that goes into the production system than the thing itself. So say how much effort have we put into say designing Raptor versus designing the manufacturing system? It's 10 to 100 times more effort to design the manufacturing system than the engine.
Even of Raptor?
Oh yeah, absolutely, especially with Raptor. All of our, the amount of effort that goes into the design rounds down to 0.
Right.
Relative to the amount of effort that goes into the manufacturing system. Yeah. And if this was not true, great. I'd like 1,000 Raptors, please. Oh, you can't make them? Oh, okay.
Right.
This is just very fundamentally underappreciated. If people have not been in manufacturing, especially manufacturing of something that's relatively new, then they don't understand, and they think the design is the hard part, and they think production is like a copier or something like that.
Right.
This is completely false.
Well, it's definitely not as sexy as the end thing. The end product is very sexy, and that's what draws people's attention. But the whole back end of it is what makes it possible.
I can't emphasize enough. I'm trying to correct the misperception that design is the hard part. It is not the hard part. There have been lots of great rocket engines designed. You've spent a lot of time looking at the Russian rocket engine designs. There's some amazing Russian rocket engine designs. They've been doing staged combustion for a long time, and they have done, I don't know, hundreds of different designs, literally. So the hard part is not can you design a staged combustion rocket engine. This has been done.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, ours is higher pressure than before, and it is a full flow staged combustion. But that's a relatively minor increment relative to what the Russians have already done.
Right.
What is super hard about Raptor is how do we make a Raptor where the cost per ton of thrust is under $1,000? Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't want to. The fundamental thing that needs to be fixed is the cost per ton to orbit.
Yep.
So things that address the cost per ton to orbit are good. Like, humanity will be a multi-planet species if we get cost per ton to orbit to the point where we can afford to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species.
Right.
So this is, at its heart, it is fundamentally an optimization of cost per ton to orbit and then ultimately cost per ton to the surface of Mars.
Right. Well, and if you're working on getting the cost of, even when you're starting to think of it as dollar per ton of thrust, I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever considered that as a key metric.
Yeah.
You know, that's a new thing that I've never thought about, never considered.
Yeah.
Well, and then even Raptor is kind of unique because now you're starting to also think about the, instead of thrust to weight ratio, when you have a fixed diameter and a fixed circle area, you're also worried about the nozzle exit to thrust ratio as being a pretty strong consideration too.
Yeah, you basically end up filling up all the area under the rocket. So with this version, we have 29 engines. There's a lot of beeping.
Yeah.
I'm not sure having this many things beep is actually helpful.
Right. Sensory overload.
Yeah, it's like everything around you is crying wolf.
If everything's in danger,
You just gotta tune it out. Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty silly, but.
So this is the nose of booster 4.
Yeah, this is basically that's the interstage and the fuel tank of booster 4.
Wow.
So yeah.
What are the little? So obviously those are where the grid fins go, right?
Yeah.
And then what's the thing in between them?
That's actually the mount point. So there are two. It's debatable whether this is the right design or not. In fact, it's like all designs are wrong, just a matter of how wrong. But that's one of the load points for picking up the booster. So that thing that you see, it's this like tiny little. It looks small.
Yeah, it looks like
But it's actually not that small at close up. This thing's just high in the air. Like all your sense of perspective is wrong.
Yeah.
And when this lands, it has like basically the density of a beer can.
Right.
An empty beer can.
Right. What is the dry mass?
With like some mass, in the engines, obviously.
What is the dry mass? Are you under 200 tons for booster?
We should be under 200 tons. The mass is a moving target, so you also have to say like what are your propellant residuals when you land. That's a big deal. Like both how much margin will you have and what's your unusable propellant. Like you can't just go to zero margin,
Right.
Because the thing's gonna crater.
Yeah.
So it should be under 200 tons though. So, but as a rough rule of thumb, like the engines, including mounting mass, are roughly 2 tons. So if you've got 29 engines at 58 tons, then the sort of the fuel tank itself and the oxygen tank is probably on the order of well, it's a little heavy right now, so maybe it's like 80 tons or so. Then you got the interstage where you've got the grid fins, batteries, and a bunch of other things.
Yep.
So that's I don't know, maybe around 20 tons, and then you got propellant residuals, which might be on the order of 20 tons too.
Okay.
So and all that should come to, I don't know, call it 160 to 200 tons, depending on the sort of final mass numbers. But like right now, everything's too heavy. Like avionics too heavy. The
avionics even?
Yeah.
I thought it was just a little.
I mean, it should be, but the grid fins are electrically powered, so we have batteries that are energy optimized instead of power optimized. So, like this grid fence only needs to work for like 2 or 3 minutes.
Right, right.
So it's very different from like a electric car, which you want to have several hours of driving. So these we need power optimized batteries, not energy optimized batteries. This is just a short-term thing.
Right.
So the battery mass can probably drop by maybe a factor of 10.
Right.
So that's just one example.
Should we back up a little bit so it's a little... Yeah.
That's clanging.
Yeah. And everyone trying to get their cranes in here and do work. You got a lot of people on set right now.
Yeah, I mean, just like that residuals number is a super big deal on the mass, though, because the booster is designed to have 3,600 tons of propellant, which is an almost 80% oxygen, liquid oxygen by mass.
Yeah.
Like 78%.
Did you burn at what? Is it 3.5
to 3.7?
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
So, and you want to bias it in favor of oxygen because oxygen is denser and cheaper.
Right.
So in terms of improving your payload and reducing cost per ton, oxygen is basically plants make it for free, and plankton.
Yeah.
So it's basically like electricity cost of separation and distillation.
Right. Remind me though, is it like, as far as the ratio goes, fuel OF ratio, having the lighter molecule? Don't you kind of want that to be spewing out faster or something because it's less reaction? You can accelerate it quicker. Or
yeah, there's a trade-off between. What you tend to get limited by is you don't want to go too close to stoichiometric because the heat's too. You basically melt your engine.
Yeah.
So that tends to limit you on the OF on trying to go to higher OF.
Right.
That's the actual thing limiting you. You tend to hit the stoichiometric melting point before you roll over on ISP.
Okay.
Generally.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And remind me, are the grid fins, do they still fold in?
No.
No. Is that going to be permanently that way?
Yeah. So what I'm trying to have us all just implement rigorously is the sort of 5-step process. First, make your requirements less dumb. Your requirements are definitely dumb. Does not matter who gave them to you. It's particularly dangerous if a smart person gave you the requirements because you might not question them enough.
Yeah, you might take it as like gospel, like
yes.
I have to do this thing.
Everyone's wrong, no matter who you are, everyone's wrong some of the time. So make your requirements less dumb. Then try very hard to delete the part or process. This is actually very important. If you're not occasionally adding things back in, you are not deleting enough.
Right.
The bias tends to be very strongly towards let's add this part or process step in case we need it. But you can basically make in-case arguments for so many things. And for a rocket that is trying to achieve, try to be the first fully reusable rocket, there's never been a fully reusable rocket. People don't understand. Like this is like the holy grail of rocketry.
100%.
Okay. And so you really need, you have to run at tight margins because if you don't run tight margins, you're going to get nothing to orbit.
Right.
So you got to delete the part or process step, super important, and you can't like hedge your bets. So that's why the grid fins, for example, do not fold down because that's a whole extra mechanism that we don't need.
And you can just compensate for it by having strong enough engine authority to steer it in the lower atmosphere.
Actually, our simulations so we don't really need any extra engine authority. As long as the grid fins, basically follow the flow, they're not really disturbing the flow. It's really neither here nor there.
So
as long as they don't have a high angle of attack, it doesn't matter.
A few degrees or something, or within a degree or two.
So, but in any case, it's a thing we could add later.
Right.
So now these grid fins are humongous. We'll go see them, but they're like a dinosaur bear trap. Okay, it's like a made a bear trap or a dinosaur. That's what these things look like. And if you have a whole mechanism for folding them, that's like clearly a part that we don't need.
Yep.
So this was a good design decision. That actually I didn't come up with, and it was like great, but it followed the principle of like delete the part, delete the process. And I was like, great, good idea. Let's not fold them. Why were we folding them anyway? Somewhere random, like it was like and also, whatever requirement or constraint you have, it must come with a name, not a department. Because you can't ask the department, you have to ask a person.
Yeah.
And that person who's putting forward the requirement or constraint must agree that they must take responsibility for that requirement. Otherwise, you can have a requirement that basically an intern 2 years ago randomly came up with off the cuff, and they're not even at the company anymore.
Right.
But it came from the, let's say, aero loads department. They're like, actually, no one in the aero loads department actually currently agrees with that. This is, by the way, happened several times.
So again, it can be literally.
I don't want to put it on the aero loads department, but there's like, it's every department.
Right.
So
it can be thought of as gospel again, but it might be something that's just totally in passing. Like.
Yeah.
Or someone played too much Kerbal and had fins at the top of the rocket, and then it just, did this.
These things are often just way more silly than you'd think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so step 1, make your requirements list dumb. Step 2, delete the part or process step. If you're not deleting a part or process step at least 10% of the time, basically, if you're not adding things back in 10% of the time, you're clearly not deleting enough.
Right.
And then only the third step is simplify or optimize. The third step, not the first step. The reason it's the third step is because it's very common. It's possibly the most common error of a smart engineer is to optimize a thing that should not exist.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And you say, well, why would people do that? Well, everyone's been trained in high school and college that you got to answer the question, convergent logic.
Yep.
So you can't tell the professor your question is dumb, that you'll get a bad grade. You have to answer the question.
Yep.
So everyone's basically, without knowing it, they got like mental straitjacket on. That is, they'll work on optimizing the thing that should simply not exist.
Right. Right.
I'll give you an example from way back in the day of Falcon 1. So in the original sort of like when Tom Mueller and I were like batting around, like, okay, what should this rocket look like? I think I was literally in like Tom's kitchen or something, and we had like the spreadsheet and like, okay, we need to like make a minimally viable rocket, like half a ton or whatever, it's something like that. And then initially the spreadsheet had we had an NTO MMH upper stage, so sort of hypergoal upper stage, kind of like a variant of the TRW LIMD.
Yep.
So.
Which I think Tom worked on, right?
Yeah. Tom, the people who trained Tom worked on it. He's not that old.
Yeah, that's right.
It was like a baby,
Yeah.
A very advanced baby.
He designed it.
But his mentors did work on LIMD. So now the problem with that is how much does NTO MMH cost? It's super expensive. Okay, it's like a rare chemical. So even if you're like, if Edison and Tesla had a baby and that baby was smarter than both of them combined and said your job is to optimize an NTO MMH upper stage, you're screwed. Okay. So that's an example of like don't optimize the thing that shouldn't exist. We should not have NTO MMH upper stage.
Right.
And then finally you get to step 4, which is accelerate cycle time. You're moving too slowly, go faster. But don't go faster until you have worked on the other 3 things first.
Gotcha.
Like if you're digging, your grave, don't dig it faster. Stop digging your grave.
Right.
But you can always make things go faster. And then the final step is automate. Now I have personally made the mistake of going backwards on all 5 steps, multiple times. So I have to repeat this, yes, multiple times on Model 3, where literally I automated, accelerated, simplified, and then deleted. Anyway.
Speaking of grid fin.
Yeah, great.
Look at that. Man, that thing is huge.
Yeah, that's why I said it's like a
dinosaur bear trap.
Dinosaur bear trap.
Oh wait, that'd be just a dinosaur trap, wouldn't it?
Yes, it's a dinosaur trap.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Honestly,
This thing could catch a T-Rex.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And of course, it's got the serrated teeth, which help in the transonic regimes, right?
Yeah.
Is there any other reason for the teeth other than that?
No, it's just well, it actually helps in transonic and subsonic, but yeah, the effectiveness is better if you got a pointy, if it's more pointy, basically. There is a limit to its pointiness. Sorry. Hey, Marvin. So, yeah, exactly. It's crushed under a bear.
Wow. So how heavy are these guys?
Man, these are. I shudder to think. Actually, I don't know the number offhand, but probably at least.